Hello, hello. I'm here with my dad because my I just got back from a conference and a cruise, and dad just got back from Israel, and he also um, is a loan officer, and he does a lot of client meetings and dinners and things like that. Especially he used to. He tells me he doesn't do that quite as much anymore. The last 3 years have kind of changed how people do business, but I thought that this would be a really good opportunity to spotlight him and talk a little bit about eating while traveling. And then also maybe dive into a little bit about, eating when you're taking out a client and things like that, which I know it's not something everyone has to do. But when you do have to do it, it can be really difficult. So welcome, Dad. I'm excited to have you here.
Good to be here.
So how was when you have travel? How do you, so my dad, I should say, dad, was it like 5 years ago that I helped dad lose 40 pounds?
Right.
And
It was 5 years ago.
it was 5 years ago, yeah. And then he started going to Orange Theory, and now he runs, what is it, an 8 minute mile, 8.5 minute, something like that.
Yeah, but it's getting slower as I get older.
Well, how old are
Not
you now?
faster. 66.
So age is just a number. I remember when we finished losing the weight, you said I feel better at 62 than I did at 42.
That's true. That's true. I felt pretty bad. I couldn't do anything
Yeah, was it a
with all
picture
that.
at Margaret's wedding that was the tipping point?
Yeah, I didn't realize I knew I was overweight, but I didn't realize I was obese like that. It looked really bad.
It was also a bad angle, but still.
I'd never seen a belly that big in my life.
So you kind of buckled down and you did a lot of work travel and things while we were working together. And I know what your
Hmm.
strategy was when you would eat out, but I'd like to hear it from you. Like what was it that you would get when you would have breakfast or dinner out?
Well, usually the chicken with not a lot of stuff on it would be safe. You kind of have to ask for it made the way you want it. And then you have to, when you're on the diet, you got to record it. So you got to eyeball it and figure out how much you're eating. And then you got to be careful about the sides and the sauces that you put on what you're eating. The biggest problem are the drinks, to be honest,
And what would you get?
especially when someone else is paying for the drinks. It's like open bar, which is open season for me to gain weight. And that's the biggest struggle that I have. And I bet a lot of people have the same issue. You just have to limit your intake because you got to record it. It'd be kind of embarrassing to record. Yeah, I had 47 mixed drinks last week, and you're trying to lose weight. That doesn't work very well.
Yeah, I remember you would get light beer because you like light beer.
Yeah, yeah, I get something like that or a
You
glass
would
of wine or
switch because
something.
you didn't realize how many carbs and things were in like a craft beer or an IPA.
Craft beers are tough. They're good, but there's a lot of carbs in those and a lot more calories. So you got to be careful. I mean, and once you've lost the weight, you want to keep it off. I mean, I'm trying to avoid having to go back on the diet, but I would do it if I had to. If my weight got to the point where I was uncomfortable again, or I didn't think I could control it, I would go back on the diet and rehire my daughter to help me lose weight. I would not hesitate to do that if I had to. Of course, she wouldn't coach me this time. She'd assign me to one of her other coaches,
You'd probably do
but it would
better with
still
somebody
work. I mean,
else.
the diet, I think so. The diet works. You don't feel hungry when you're losing weight, but the hard thing is being on the diet and eating out, absolutely. But when you get a little bit of momentum, you don't want to blow a day because every day is really important because you're counting down that week and you want to lose that pound a week or that pound and a half a week. I was losing a pound a week, and then I think if I was working out the way I am, I would be losing a little over a pound a week, maybe a pound and a half. So it's not a crash diet. It takes a long time to go through it. It took me 40 weeks to go through that diet.
But before that, you've done Nutrisystem ever since I can remember, and you never lost anything
Yeah,
consistently on it.
I lost one time on Nutrisystem, and the problem with that is the food is bad, doesn't taste good, and there's not enough of it, so you're left being hungry all the time.
The little SpaghettiOs
So
taste pretty good, but they're not very filling.
yeah, it just wasn't filling. Your diet, I actually was never hungry, and
Yeah, and I
that's a
remember
big
you would
difference.
also you'd go out for breakfast and you would you get the egg white omelet with veggies in it?
Yeah, I got a lot of egg whites. I didn't realize egg whites are so much better than regular eggs, but you learn what foods to eat and what not to eat. But a lot of these restaurants will have the calories of the food you're eating. And when you're having breakfast and the breakfast you want to order is 1,500 calories, which is not that unusual, it's really hard to choose. In fact, at some restaurants, the lowest calorie breakfast would be 450 to 500 calories, which is still a lot for breakfast. But I guess you don't really have much of a choice.
That's actually really
When
good
I was
for eating
traveling
out.
for business,
Very
yeah,
few
if I was
times you
traveling,
can get a meal. And I would say if you're logging a meal and you're eating out and it is under 400 or 500 calories, I would look at it again. Because unless you're just getting a bowl of soup and nothing else, the odds are 9 times out of 10 it's higher than that. Because you get the egg
yeah,
white omelet, they cook that egg white omelet in oil. You ever been to an omelet station? They go whoop, 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 and
yeah.
they put a bunch of oil in there first. That's the first thing they do. That's how they
The
get
other
it
thing I
nice.
would do if I was on the road by myself, I wouldn't be eating all my meals with clients. So instead of eating out by myself, I just go to the grocery store. And a lot of
Mhm.
these hotels have microwaves, so you could just make your own food. And so there was food that I was eating anyway that I'd go pick up. And that way, if I only had one meal out a day while I was on the road, I could manage that. The hard thing is when I was in Israel, we had 3 meals a day and it was a buffet. And it
Yeah.
was all new kinds of food that I wanted to try. And that giant dessert tray with all kinds of new stuff that I had never eaten. So the first 2 days were complete disasters. And then I settled in to, you know, uh, a reasonable diet. I focused on things that I knew. And if I wanted to try something new, I just had a taste of it. I wouldn't eat the whole thing.
Yeah. But I
And so I
think that's
really
the
didn't gain
difference
any weight.
between a work trip and a vacation. Especially, I mean, that going to Israel, that's once, maybe twice in a lifetime experience.
When I
Versus
went to when
uh
I went to Israel, I lost weight because the food was I, I was used to the food, but the food in Israel was different.
yeah.
And it that was a hard one, but traveling is very difficult.
Yeah, I
The other
remember
thing about
Dad, you and I
Israel,
went to London together and I lost weight when we went to London. And I remember I ate a bowl of fish and chips the size of my face. Like it was enormous. But we would eat like this huge lunch and a tiny, like huge, like brunch, and then like a pretty small dinner because we were still full and we walked so much. So that's another
yeah,
strategy. Grab brunch and then we would split dinner and have just something small. That works really
we were
well.
walking 5 to 7 miles a day in Israel.
Yeah.
That's a lot of walking.
Well, and staying hydrated when you're traveling is huge too, especially if you're going somewhere I don't think you said Israel wasn't too hot this time of year, but still all that walking.
No, within the 50s mostly, 40s, 50s, 60s.
Oh, a little cold then.
Well, it's winter, so it's winter there too. They're in the northern hemisphere, so
Mm.
it
That is
is
ridiculous
winter.
hot.
It's more, yeah. But that was actually a good time to go. So when you go in the summer, it's brutal,
Yeah.
and it's like 100 degrees.
But I think that's good to keep in mind too. If you're going to somewhere else, even a place that's once in a lifetime like Israel, if you're going to be there for several weeks, it might be easier on your digestion and your body to not have all of the new things the first day, to, kind of have,
Mhm.
some bits of it, and then some things that are like, okay, this is more basic. I'm going to have the more basic thing, and then I'm going to have this, fancy dessert, and split this, fancy appetizer with somebody else.
And also, I was terrified of gaining weight because I really don't want to gain weight. I'm very motivated not to gain weight.
Dad saw a photo at Christmas and he was like, I don't like that.
I didn't like
Put him
it.
on red alert.
I didn't like it one bit. It didn't look good.
I like that you said, because it is true, when you actually have to track what you're eating, like drinks, it makes the decision easy whether or not you want to order that second one. Or like on restaurants too, looking at menus, like that is always really eye-opening. You're like, I don't actually know that I want to eat that. Or I know, Bonnie, you're really good, like if you order something, take half of it home for another meal.
That's always a good idea.
Or split it with somebody else. If you're going with somebody else and it's a lot cheaper too. You're only going to order one meal. I usually tip a little bit extra when I do that because I feel bad.
It's a good idea. It's always good to tip a little extra.
Well, I figure if we would have ordered 2 meals and we're all ordering one, and if I tip an extra, if I tip 30% instead of 20%, they're still not making nearly as much as they would have. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I think traveling, you want to decide, like, is this a once in a lifetime experience? Am I traveling to somewhere that's really special? And how often do I do that? Because I know some people who they vacation a lot. And if you're vacationing 6 times a year, not every single one of those can be treated like a once in a lifetime trip as far as eating and drinking goes. But if you take one vacation, Dad, you haven't been on a big vacation. I mean, we usually go on a family vacation, but this is different. Going to Israel is very different than we went to Yosemite. You're not like, oh my gosh, the food at Yosemite National Park. That's that's the memorable thing. You go to Paris.
We had Thanksgiving dinner there, though.
What?
Yeah. We had Thanksgiving dinner that year.
Yeah, I made Thanksgiving dinner at an Airbnb kitchen that was the size. It was like a 4x6 kitchen. It was the smallest thing I'd ever been in. No one could help me because not one more person could fit in there.
It was good though.
It turned out pretty good. But yeah, so if you're on a trip, like a business trip, and you're going to be going out to dinner, if you're in control of where you're going, try to pick like a steakhouse or something like that. Order the chicken or the steak or the fish, hold the sauce or bring it on the side, get a baked potato, and then they will put 5 cups of butter on that baked potato. Ask them to not do that and bring you steamed vegetables. Dad's really good at asking for a side of steamed vegetables. He does really good at that. So, you look at that and you put that together, and I'll usually use Outback Steakhouse or similar, somewhere like that to log that, even if it's not a chain. So if it's not a chain, just a, mom and pop steakhouse, I'll use Outback Steakhouse to track it. And you've had like a pretty nice meal there, and it's not too high in calories. The macros are pretty good. You're going to be full from that meal. And it's getting more and more common to see mocktails and non-alcoholic drinks on the menu. So that can be an option for drinks. I also like to order a tea, can be really nice, a diet soda. And if you go up to the bar and you ask for a diet soda with like a wedge of lime, they're going to think you ordered a rum and Coke. And no one's going to know that it's just Diet Coke. Because a lot of times it's just about keeping up appearances. And you don't necessarily even want it. Or getting, a light beer and or 1 glass of wine and kind of just making it last through the whole dinner. Instead of, it's pretty easy to just drink it very quickly.
Right.
But I love your idea that when you're traveling, especially for work, to go to the grocery store, get a couple frozen meals or something from the deli. And, that's more your usual food. So you only have that one meal out that you really have to have. One of my clients is going to Las Vegas in a few weeks. And Dad, do you remember we went to Las Vegas and we ordered that meal delivery service to the hotel?
Yeah.
And it was so much cheaper and easier than eating out, because when you go to Vegas, it takes like 2 hours every time you want to go out to eat, because everything is a 30-minute walk away. You got to wait forever. And then it's like $40 for like a chicken sandwich and side salad. So instead, we had meals delivered to our hotel and we just heated it up in the hotel room. And it meant we could really
We
relax.
did eat out though. We went to Chef Ramsay's place.
We did. We ate out
That's-
for nice dinners. We went out to
Mhm.
Gordon Ramsay's steak and we got the beef Wellington and sticky toffee pudding. I'll never forget that sticky toffee pudding. That was so good. That was worth it. See, like a chicken sandwich or whatever wouldn't have been worth it. It was nice that we had those meals. We didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I kind of wonder when I go to Florida, I'm like, this is a 2-week trip. This is gonna
Mhm.
be, definitely a challenge, and with all the fun tropical drinks and key lime stuff, and those winer, like, yeah, it'll be interesting. So it's good. It's very timely to listen in.
Yeah, something to think about while you're there, that maybe it's like, hey, try it. If you haven't booked your hotels yet, see if you can find a
Mhm.
hotel that's near like a Whole Foods or somewhere else that's going to have a salad bar that you can go to. Even
And
if you
there,
have a microwave in your room, most of them have a mini fridge, and you could keep salad stuff in the mini fridge for 1 or 2 meals.
wonderful idea. And also Miller's Ale House is a well-known steakhouse in Florida. And I did so well eating there. And with the same thing, I would have the steak and I'd have the steamed vegetable and the
Mhm.
baked potato without any, everything on the side if I wanted it. But Miller's ALE House, my children and I are still talking about.
Aw.
They have so
Well,
many
I think
options.
Uncle Alan will like it there.
Well, I was just gonna say this is actually a really great topic because I like, the first half of my trip I'm there for a conference, right? So I'm very dependent on who I'm with, right? And the food that's going to be served there. But the second half, I'm going to be with other people that are very picky eaters. So I'm going to find myself in a deli often, and choices are going to be a little bit more limited. So I mean, that's another thing to think about when you're traveling with others, right? How do you eat
One of my
when the other
biggest tips
people?
that we haven't talked about is when you go to that grocery store or wherever, gas station, doesn't matter, Walgreens, get a couple gallons of water. Because a lot of times when you travel, the water, if you get out of the tap, it tastes weird. Like you're just not going to drink as much because like the water tastes funny. So if you go and you bring back a gallon of water, it's gonna be a lot easier for you to refill your water bottle. Or you could get one of those water bottles that have the filter in it, and you can just use the bathroom sink, or do both. I like doing both because those refillable water bottles are really slow. They're super slow. So that's another, just making sure that you're hydrated, and you have control of that, whether you're, work, whether you're, as long as even if you're in the car, you can have gallons of water in the car.
I feel like we did that. Did we do that? For those that are rewatching, I was in the Yosemite trip too. But did we do that Yosemite? I think we did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But see, we were also in a group where well, you're in a forest, so you have to go to the grocery store. But
We went to that
um,
grocery store. I remember we drove 30 or 40 minutes because that was the nearest grocery store, with like everything piled on our laps except for me because I was driving.
right. Yeah, that was a very intense grocery shopping trip.
And it
But
was November 2020, so we didn't really want to see people. We wanted to make one trip to the grocery store and cook all of our meals at our Airbnb. That was a little different of a trip. I don't think we hardly ate out at all on that trip. There wasn't anywhere to eat.
right.
Even if we
Right.
wanted to, there was nowhere to go.
So maybe it would be good, for anyone else thinking that too, like obviously my uncle, like I said, is very picky. Like he will not eat fruit or vegetables. And so the choices in his restaurants, like it's going to be dependent upon him, which is good. There's protein, right? Like he's going for meat, but you're also going for a lot of heavy carbs because pasta and bread and right. So how do you, and I think you kind of address this, like, make sure you're getting meat and steamed veggies, but when you go to a Jewish deli, there's no steamed veggies.
No, but if you have been able to get to the grocery store, you could bring a little bag of baby carrots. and have that with your deli sandwich. Also, a deli, correct me if I'm wrong, is often you buy it at a counter and then you go and eat it, like either outside, or especially in Florida, I imagine you'll be outdoor eating. If there's a place next door that has like salads or soup, you could go and be like, hey, get me, I'll split a Reuben with mom. I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna get the salad next door, and then you can have like kind of both. And that may or may not be an option, but if you have it in your mind and it's convenient, like, oh look, there's one of the delis you recommended, it's right here, literally half a block down. There's a vegetable, so I can round out that like very tall meat sandwich.
Well, the one we went to is a little uniquely different. We'll put it that way. They're not all like you like walk up to and walk away from. They're actual restaurants. So bringing in outside food is like
But
that
would
is
they-
probably not an option.
Would they have like a side salad or something like that? Some of them
Potato
will.
salad.
You don't think any of them would have just like a green salad if you asked? Well, then you're gonna have to pile up at a different meal.
Yeah, right. So, but I mean, not everyone goes to Jewish deli, but I think that is really hard when you're kind of dependent on the other people, right? Like, how do you
Also
make the
keeping
right
in mind
choice?
that he has his preferences, but that doesn't mean that every single meal has to be exactly where he wants to go. I don't think that's fair either, right?
Right.
Obviously,
No.
he wants to go to a deli. You guys are going to go to a deli. You
Right.
want to go to a deli too, but
Another thing too, like when we're often traveling, we stay at hotels and then you have the free breakfast.
mhm.
And those aren't always the healthiest options. So how do you recommend tackling that if you're on vacation and traveling?
Yeah, I would bring
We have the Rotary meetings at the Hampton Inn in Gurnee, where I live. And so it's that we get the breakfast that the guests get. So what I eat, I get oatmeal and a couple yogurts, the 50-calorie yogurts. And that's it. And that is going to fill me up every time.
Mhm. I was going to
So
say
there are
get
healthy
the oatmeal, and you can bring protein powder with you and mix that in, and that works really
You
well.
could?
And they often will have banana or apple or
Mhm.
oranges. Usually they'll have like very shelf stable fruit. Not always.
About half the time the bananas are edible, to be honest. Most of the time they're, ready for the banana bread pile.
Oh my gosh.
I can't believe they put those out there.
But that's a good point because I have been to networking events as well, and it's donuts and croissants and that's it, and coffee,
Or bagels with cream cheese.
muffins, that kind of stuff,
Muffins are the worst.
right? So I choose to
How many
opt out
calories in
and
a
say
muffin?
no.
Like 700 calories in a muffin, something like that.
And if that's the
Crazy.
only choice, don't eat it.
You're better off not eating. Maybe
If you
you're
don't-
better off just carrying a protein bar with you in case you need to eat it.
Mhm. Usually you
bring
can
their
look at the
own.
hotel at the reviews and there'll be pictures of the breakfast, so you can get a decent idea of like, do I need to have something else? Usually if the hotel advertises they have a breakfast, they'll at least will have the oatmeal you put in the microwave. I've rarely been to one that didn't at least have that. You can also put protein powder, vanilla, well, I guess any flavor you want in with milk for cereal. It does work.
Mhm.
It's a little funny, but I've seen kids when I worked in the school, they would have chocolate milk with their Cheerios. That sounds weird, but probably is good.
I've been
It sounds
that
like
kid.
Count Chocula.
Yeah, so you
I've
could
done
just
that.
bring protein powder, and if you mix it up with a little bit of milk, it does become a bit of like a chocolate spread, and you could put that chocolate spread on half a bagel. Try it out. It might be good. You might hate it. I don't know. I've never done that before.
Would
But
it be thick enough?
if you only put in like 2 tablespoons of milk, it is. If you
Mm.
put in like the littlest bit, it becomes like a nice spreadable. Protein powder
Out
is
of the
good.
box.
I have gotten stopped at security and they've like looked at it funny, but I've never gotten it thrown out. They've been like, what is this? They like swab it and they're like, oh, it's protein powder. So, the other travel snack I'll bring with me, is tuna in the packets. They also sell chicken that way too. And they're usually pre-seasoned. Often they come with a little fork. So the nice thing about that is it's shelf stable. If you don't eat it, bring it home. Not a big deal.
Mhm.
You can throw it on a salad. Well, that's time. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks, Dad.
You're welcome.
Thank you
Anything
so
for my
much.
daughter.
It was nice meeting you both.
Oh, my
Yeah,
pleasure.
thank you
Nice
for
to meet
coming,
too.
Rachel's.
Yeah, I'm very here, I'll say hi for a minute. I'm very excited to work with your daughter. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. She's terrific, and you're going to be successful, no question about it. You're highly motivated.
Oh,
I can already tell the fact that you joined this call.
you know what? If I'm able to, I always join. You know what? I'm very appreciative. So, Rachel, have a
good.
good trip and have
Thank you.
everyone have a wonderful night. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Night.